And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on our platform, expanding across Louisiana Plain, where we are expanding and broadening the case for constitutional conservatism, elevating the candidacy of good constitutional conservatives, and slowly but surely, day by day, measure by measure, draining the Louisiana swamp. My name is Chris.
And I'm Danielle, and this is the State of Freedom, brought to you by Louisiana First citizens just like you. Hello, State of Freedom family. Thank you for taking a few minutes to join us. Thank you for inviting us into your day. You are the absolute best team we could ask for, and you know that we're only here because of your encouragement, your prayers, and your financial support. If you are looking for a way to support us, to advertise with us, or to send us feedback, please visit our website at freedomstate.us. A reminder, which you probably don't need anymore, but I'll keep reminding you anyway. Election Day is November 18th, and as before, we are encouraging all State of Freedom listeners and your families to please, if you can, make a plan to vote in person on Election Day. We are continuing the Race to the Finish series, and we hope you enjoy it. Please share these episodes with friends and family who live in the districts we're covering, because these final races really will make the critical difference in the makeup of the legislature. As a reminder, you can send short clips, snack-sized clips of the interviews with these candidates from our YouTube and Rumble channels to your friends and family who maybe don't have time to listen to an entire episode. The links to those are in the show notes to the YouTube and Rumble channels, that is, and over on freedomstate.us. Today, we have joining us a bold, passionate, truly values-based conservative candidate, Lauren Ventrella, who's running for state rep in District 65. I'm really looking forward to talking to her. But before we meet her, let's get into the scripture of the day. It is from 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. And it says, "Most of all, I'm writing to encourage you to pray with gratitude to God. Pray for all men with all forms of prayers and requests as you intercede with intense passion. And pray for every political leader and representative so that we would be able to live tranquil, undisturbed lives as we worship the awe-inspiring God with pure hearts. It is pleasing to our Savior God to pray for them. He longs for everyone to embrace his life and return to the full knowledge of truth. For God is one, and there is one mediator between God and the sons of men, the true man, Jesus, the Anointed One." And I know there are a lot of prayer warriors who listen to the show and who pray for our elected representatives and leaders in government. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. Please keep it up. If our representatives and government officials know the Lord and submit to him, we will be able to live tranquil and undisturbed lives. The Lord desires that we pray for them to come to know Jesus, not just for their benefit, but also for ours. So let's be praying for these leaders in addition to all of our work to right the system by demanding truth, by demanding transparency and accountability. I am beyond convinced that prayer will be the difference maker for us.
No question about it, Danielle. And as you alluded to, the biggest barrier to being able to live tranquil and undisturbed lives is to make sure that our government does not transgress against our core constitutional rights. And the guest I'm convinced that we have today on the show, Lauren Ventrella, when she's elected to the legislature, will be a real voice for freedom in the legislature against a government that seems to be increasingly eroding our core fundamental constitutional rights. And so it's such a pleasure to have Lauren with us this morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing? I'm glad to be here.
Fantastic.
Doing super, and I'm just thrilled to death, having known you for many years as an attorney, that you made the decision to run for state rep in 65, and now moving into the runoff with a very good showing in the primary. You're in a very good position to go ahead and take this race on November 18th. Lauren, why don't you tell the listeners, since you haven't been on the show before, what were some of the factors that motivated you to run for public office?
Yeah, so and I'm glad you said that, because I think it's very cool that you know me sort of from the legal world, because I've worked very hard in my career for 9 years now, and I have made a reputation for myself, and I would say it's a good one. And it's kind of strange because when you get in the political world, it's like the two things don't compute. They're not. I'm starting over. I'm having to prove myself, to show who I am, to show what I believe, and it's been fun. But if I didn't have, I would say the strength of the Lord, I would say it's tiring, but it's good. But no, what motivated me to run? I will say this: the little noise I spoke about earlier in my living room. I have she's what, 19 weeks now. I have a 19-week-old little girl, and she was a big part of the reason why I ran. She was not the original call. I felt called to do it before we were expecting her, because I was so tired of Louisiana being in last. I mean, we are last for opportunity, education, infrastructure, our economy, so many things. And I looked around and I said, you know what? I know that I have a gift and an ability to communicate and to advocate. And so I want to use that on a bigger scale. So then when we found out, surprise, that we were expecting our daughter, we did not think that was even a possibility for us. When we found that out, instantly it was like, okay, God, this is what I'm doing. And not only at that time we didn't know the gender. Then when I found out she was a little girl, I said, wow, yep, okay, God, I got to show her that women, girls, we can do anything. We can do it all. We are not stuck in a box of limited because we're mothers. No, we can be strong working mothers, and we can pursue our dreams and the path that God has for us.
That's awesome.
Lauren, you mentioned that our state is in just about every major metric, our state is last. And it's been that way for so long. And one of the things that motivates me, being the father of four children, is not only to try to change the state for my benefit, but for the benefit of my children, so that they inherit a situation that makes them want to stay here and live here and work here in Louisiana. When you look at your new daughter, is that something that crosses your mind also as a motivation to try to serve, to make sure that the state that she grows up in is one that she wants to stay in and live in and raise a family in?
Absolutely. And that kind of goes to a big part of who I am. So obviously I'm running for District 65. A big part of District 65 is the city of Central. And our beautiful district does wrap around to some areas of Baton Rouge, O'Neill Lane, Millerville, down to Harrell's Ferry. But a big part of it is where I grew up, the city of Central. And I'm fourth generation, and we have a lot of pride. We call it, wildcat pride here. And my mom and my grandma, they're my neighbors. My sister lives just down the road. My family, we're very family oriented, and it would be awesome to keep my daughter here with me and have her be my neighbor. But statistically, I know the reality, if we if we continue on the current trajectory, it's not going to happen.
Right. And we have tens of thousands of people. I mean, the out-migration out of the state of Louisiana is really staggering at this point. And, as disappointing as it is, as disheartening as it is, it's not hard to understand why that's the case. So just one of those things that we have to have good public servants, specifically in the legislature, who are eager and willing to do something about that. What would you say, Lauren, in talking to your voters and talking to the constituents in District 65, what would you say are some of their major concerns right now?
So I would say one of the biggest things, just being here, living here, and knowing the people, of something that we've heard. And this has been for many years, because we were very affected by the flood in 2016. It was devastating to our area. And those anxieties and concerns still resonate with people every time it rains, which we're in a drought right now, which is kind of crazy, because man, my pond in my front yard is it's like shallow. My ducks are walking around, and I'm like, where are you talking?
Oh, no.
But no, we're in a drought. But last year, if you remember this time, it was just sopping wet muddy. And so every time it rains, we get anxiety out here because while we're in a drought, we haven't forgot that those issues are going to come back. Flooding is a huge problem. Infrastructure, our roads are so bad. I was at a forum, and it was kind of an interesting question they asked. What would be a part of your town that, or your area that you wouldn't want to bring people to, and a part that you would want to bring people to? And my answer was Wax Road. You might get 4 flat tires if you drive down it. So
Yeah.
our roads are tough. They're in bad shape, and we need some bridges built here. So I would say infrastructure is a big one, but potholes,
Yeah. Lauren, we had, I have to tell you this real quick. We had Alan Seabaugh, who was just elected to the state Senate, very close friend of our show. And he told us that when he was campaigning for the state Senate up in North Louisiana, he hit some potholes when he was out driving around and knocked the entire back of his vehicle off. And really, it was that bad. It dismantled
his tailgate. Yeah.
His tailgate.
Oh my
It dismantled his tailgate entirely. So as sad as it is, it's definitely not a phenomena that's unique to South Louisiana. But you are so right about the road situation, the infrastructure. It's been bad for so long.
It's so bad. But I mean, as you guys know, I'm sure it's a multi-level problem because we have a lot of stuff that outgoing Senator Bodie White that he was able to get funded, but then DOTD just sits there and doesn't do it. So it's frustrating. But jumping back to your other question, another issue that I've heard big, and I know it's around the state, but crime is a huge scare.
It absolutely is. Now, Lauren, just to shift gears to the race for a second, you got into this runoff from a pretty crazy 5-way race. All Republican candidates running for state rep in District 65. You are now in the race against, obviously, a Republican opponent. How are you approaching the final stretch of this race? There's just a few weeks left here.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I look back and I'm like, wow, like a year of my life is by. But then I will tell you this, and I don't know if it's the same for other candidates or if it's just me, but I feel like the past few days or weeks have been the longest days of my life because it's just so much going on. I mean, like I told you guys, I've got 2 other meetings after this, campaign related, and I'm sure a multitude of phone calls all day long. It's been crazy. So I'm just trying to keep my energy up. I'm trying to keep my focus, and mental health is a real thing. We gotta remind ourselves why we're doing this, take care of ourselves. It's so easy to neglect, and it's something that I definitely, I have been grounded. And I loved your verse that you read because prayer is a big thing. And I always say, I'm not the best prayer. So many people pray so well, but I don't think I have the gift of being able to just spout off a really awesome prayer like you did. But I'm trying. We all have our strong suits, but I would say continuing to ground myself in my faith and focusing that I know that God has a plan and a path for me. And I'm looking right here on our desk. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you the path to take. Proverbs 3:5-6. And that's what I'm doing. I mean, I am
really powerful.
Yeah. Every door that opens up, I'm like, okay, God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's very powerful. It's interesting, Lauren, having known you for many years and just knowing the servant's heart that you have. I know this is the case for me when I'm engaged in things and trying to do good. The first thing that we tend to do is sort of neglect ourselves because we're so busy trying to serve others and make a difference in the life of others. And so it is easy sort of to neglect taking care of ourselves and our own mental health. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And it sounds to me like you are doing everything you can to do that in the midst of a very, very hectic final days of a campaign.
Not to mention a new baby and probably not a whole
Yeah,
many hours of
exactly.
sleep.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah, say, well, I can sleep when I'm dead,
Yeah, but I
There
always
you
think that
go.
if we don't sleep now, we're going to be dead a lot sooner.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly.
I have to say, I could not do this without my family and my support that I have. It has been such a blessing. Everybody's been rallying because when I get in office, you're not just getting Lauren Ventrella. You're getting my husband, my mom, my grandma, my cousin, my sister, everybody, because I mean, that is really what it takes. It takes a village to raise a kid, and it takes a village to run for office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely it does. The fortitude it takes to run for office. I mean, this is not for the faint of heart, and we've seen some candidates kind of crash and burn this election season just because either they didn't have, it does require your faith. I mean, you have to be grounded. You have to have like a strong sense of who you are to be able to withstand all that's going to come at you. And for those who don't, or for those who are maybe just having a weak moment, it can be pretty brutal.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And if I didn't have my faith, I couldn't do this. Or I would tell you, I wouldn't be doing this. That is for sure. Because it's tough. It opens you up to a lot of scrutiny and attacks and negativity, but there's so much positivity to it too. I've met so many great people, and I mean, people are excited. People are messaging me every day asking, I don't know if y'all saw on Facebook, but the hearts, everybody's like, where can I get a heart? I said, man, we might have had the trendiest campaign this city's seen in a while. I mean, I've got the blue hearts. I'm with LV. So people are just so excited about it, and it feels great because I think that everybody's looking for a change. Everybody's looking for hope, especially after COVID, coming out of all that and all the horrible things that happened during that time. I think people are looking for a fresh face, and it's great. I'm so happy to be able to have the health and the knowledge and the ability to be able to do that. So it is a blessing.
Yeah. Speaking of the COVID and all of the lockdowns and the coercive health mandates of the governor, what do you think about when you look back on that, Lauren? And if the government were to try and lower the boom on us again and strip us of our freedom that way, and all the damage that caused to businesses and to families, what is your position on that, and how would you respond to that, both on a personal level and as a legislator?
Yeah, so I would say when you ask what do you think about, I remember thinking whenever they were doing all the the lockdowns and the bans, I was thinking, how in the world are they going to ban us lawyers from the courthouse if we don't get a vaccine? Because I was like, I'm not getting that thing. Okay. Members of my family did, and that was their choice, and that was their decision. But my husband and I, we did not want to get it. And so I thought to myself, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? But luckily, I guess the one profession that they didn't want to mess with was lawyers, because we wouldn't have been able to go. I'm thinking, well, are they going to check our vaccine card to go to court? I mean, we're going to have to get a continuance. Are we just going to get contempt for not showing up because we can't go in? I mean, it was so many things running through my head, but thank God they never required a vaccine card to enter the courthouse, which was interesting because, I mean, they required it to enter so many other places and go other places and travel. But I guess they knew, well, we're going to bite off more than we can chew if we do that, because we're going to be hit with thousands of lawsuits. And then, you're abridging their constitutional rights and the rights to courts. How would we file them if we can't get there to file them? It would have been a whole mess. But that, I would say, a big part of what I would do in the legislature is what I did for myself and my husband during that time. And it would be stand up for our constitutional rights. I think that the mandates were wrong. And irrespective of how people feel about the vaccine, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I can only tell you personally and constitutionally, because that's where my expertise goes. But I can tell you constitutionally, it was wrong to require people to do that.
Yeah. One of the founders said that, basic constitutional rights are not suspended during a time of emergency. And the idea of whether or not a person should be forced to undergo any kind of medical procedure, whether it's a vaccine or anything else, because of a government mandate, does seem to fly directly into the face of the Constitution. One of the things that makes, to me, makes your candidacy very attractive is the fact that you are a constitutional scholar. You do know the Constitution and you understand that. And who would be in a better position in the legislature to fight for individual freedom than someone who understands and knows the Constitution? So I think that's something that really, really militates strongly in favor of your ability to serve well and faithfully in the legislature. Just your knowledge of the Constitution and fundamental freedom.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I do have my husband's consent to discuss a little bit of what we went through during that. My husband is a special operator in the military. He's Air Force pararescue, and he's a reservist, but it's a very active reserve unit. And during that time, they were required to get the vaccine. And as with the military, they're required to get a lot of different vaccines. And, they don't have, I guess, as much freedom as a civilian does, but they still should have constitutional rights, right? Well, during that time, they were actually court-martialing people that refused the vaccine. So he was deployed in a war zone during COVID, and it was something that I personally went through, but a lot of people don't know about because I wasn't vocal about it on Facebook because it was our private business. And I only recently would I say my life has been thrust into the spotlight. I've never been that kind of person. I never did things for personal recognition. I'm not going to talk about what kind of sandwich I ate for lunch on Facebook. It's just never been me. But
or post a picture of it.
Yeah, or my sandwich. Look at my eggs I cooked this morning. Okay, yeah, no. But so very, very privately, we underwent a lot. He was in a war zone, and his deployment got extended quite significantly. And while he was over there, they were trying to require him to get the vaccine. Then he got home, and I was actually a big part of, I don't know if I was the part, but I had to write legal memorandums on his behalf to the Air Force. And it was ironic because they would continue to extend his decision on whether or not he was going to be allowed to not have the vaccine. And it got extended, y'all, like 2 years. And now obviously the policy is no longer in place. So he did get to keep his job, but many of his friends did not. But I was very proud of my husband. And it didn't hurt that he had a lawyer on staff.
On staff.
Yeah.
Doing some pro bono work up in there.
Man, he had to pay for it. Don't worry.
There's a lot of signs he's got to put up. Lots of signs.
Oh, my poor husband. And talking about the signs, he busted his head on a T-post driver. So he really paid for that legal work.
Oh man, I bet you put him to the plow. God only knows how many signs he's gotten up out there for you.
It's been a lot.
Lauren, let's take the opportunity as well to hear from you. You talked about the enthusiasm about the race and just the possibility that people see for a change in Baton Rouge. What are some ways that you would differentiate yourself from your opponent as you're going into this runoff race?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So, for one, I'm a newcomer. I am a political, I guess I couldn't say I'm a political nobody at this point, but before October 14th, I was definitely a political nobody. I had no political history. I've never ran for anything before. So I think that people are definitely invigorated by that. I'm running against Barry Ivy, who was the incumbent for 12 years, his twin brother. So that's a difference right there. I can't say Brandon has any history, but his family has been involved in politics. Mine's not. My family is very apolitical. We have strong opinions, but nobody in my family's ever held an office. And I would say that I differentiate Brandon, he's a Republican too. We're both Republicans, and I think that our life experience is a little bit different, which kind of makes us different candidates. I think that people seem to be excited by the fact that I've never ran for anything before, and I'm just a good old central gal. And I would say that our personalities are a little bit different. We communicate differently. I'm very off the cuff as far as how I speak, but I do have a lot more experience in that as an attorney. That's what I do for a living. So I think that resonates with people. I know that I've gotten a lot of compliments at speaking engagements, that's one of my strong suits, just the ability to communicate and get my point across and speak very enthusiastically because I am enthusiastic about this stuff. I love this stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. Have any of your opponents from the primary endorsed you, or maybe just give us some of the endorsements even outside of that as well?
Yeah, so I will tell you this. It was really, really cool. The night of the primary, I got a phone call from Metro Councilman Aaron Moak, who was also in the race. He came out third in the shakeup, and he called me and told me that he wanted to be on my team, and very quickly after that publicly endorsed me. I'm very blessed to have his support. He was a strong number 3, and I know that he has a lot of support in our area because he was one of the main people that kind of helped the city of Central get started, and he knows the municipal side of it. So he's going to be a great ally. Once I get him a legislature, he's going to be able to tell me, hey, Lauren, look, we need XYZ for funding. We need this, we need that. You have to have allies in that.
Absolutely.
Also, in addition to Aaron, I have our city council. Aaron McKinney has endorsed me, as well as Josh Roy. They're both our at-large members. So a big part of the electorate has voted for them as well. Also, I have Senator-elect Rick Edmonds, which will be our brother in the Senate, on the Senate side, which is also very important. You've got to have a strong representative and a senator that are on the same page. So he will be incoming in January, taking the seat over in the Senate. And also another big one to mention is Sheriff Sid Gotro. He has endorsed me because he knows I'm the real deal when it comes to backing the blue. I have the experience and the understanding. I want to protect qualified immunity. I want to get them training. I want to get them funding. So he has stepped up and endorsed me. And as well as our outgoing Senator Bodie White, he also endorsed me.
Yeah. Speaking for a moment of qualified immunity, it is a perennial issue in the legislature, Lauren. I mean, like I said, we're down there frequently, and almost every session there is a bill that's proposed to diminish qualified immunity. And for our listeners to know, qualified immunity is basically the legal doctrine, as you know, of course, that says that the police officers, when they're acting in the heat of the moment in exigent situations, you have to judge their actions based upon what they reasonably perceived at the moment. So if you're in a situation where you think, the classic example is you're in a situation where you think a guy in a dark alley has a gun, and you've told him to stop, put his hands up or whatever, and then he reaches and he pulls something out. And so, you shoot him, and he there's a fatality there. And you come to find out later, the police realize, well, that wasn't a gun, it was a phone or a camera or whatever. The police can't be held liable in that situation because they acted reasonably under those circumstances. So they have immunity from liability in that situation. It's such an important doctrine that protects our law enforcement officers to be able to make heat of the moment decisions without having to worry about losing their family or losing their home in lawsuits. So I'm so glad that you mentioned the qualified immunity and that you will fight to preserve and protect that in the legislature.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to me, it's crazy because from a practitioner standpoint, qualified immunity works just fine. But I know that, and so in our area, we have the Brave Cave stuff going on. And yes, absolutely, there's bad eggs in every bunch, but we have to balance it. We have to realize that the overwhelming majority of officers are good people. People make mistakes, again, in every profession. But if we don't protect the good ones, then we're going to continue to erode the very fabric of our institutions and our safety. We have to protect them. We have to protect qualified immunity because, look, none of us here on this podcast are officers. We don't know what they go through on a daily basis, and they need to be held to the standard of a police officer, not of a normal person in the street. And like you said, it's that they're going to be judged to the reasonable standard of a reasonable officer in that circumstance. And that's what's so important, because we can't really empathize in that. And so in court, when you see things, when you see challenges to these things, they'll call in experts, experts in use of force and experts in police technique. They're not calling an expert in dog walking for these things. They're calling an expert in police maneuvers. And that's what's so important, that we have to realize this is a completely different legal standard. And we have to protect that, because people aren't going to want to be police officers if they're going to be held to the standard of a dog walker or something else crazy like that. We have to protect that, because their pay is already not enough to keep people motivated to want to be officers and little kids to grow up. We have to shift the narrative. We have to say, look, the officers are here to truly serve and protect. Back whenever I remember when I was a little kid, people would grow up and want to be police officers. We've got to keep that. We've got to change the culture. We've got to change the narrative to where we motivate our kids to want to be officers and protect them legally.
Yeah. There's a segment of our society, Lauren, that is still seeking to defund the police. Every time the police engage in any action that meets with any controversy, it seems like it's always the policeman's fault, and the attrition rate among law enforcement now, I think, is at unprecedented levels for that reason, because they get such a bad rap from so many quarters. So it's good to know that you'll be fighting to protect law enforcement in the legislature. I want to ask you a final question here and see, and then if Danielle has anything else she wants to ask you. But I want to ask you this, because I can tell you that one of the big concerns that our listeners have, and I know citizens across Louisiana, is this. We have candidates who run for office and they espouse a constitutional conservative platform. They say all the right things, they do all the right things, and then they get elected to office. And often within 6 or 8 months or a year, they've become corrupted on the altar of self-enrichment, or because of big special interest donors that they have, and they forget who elected them and they cease being faithful to the interests of their voters. What would you say to our listeners to reassure them that once you're elected, you will always remember where you came from and always be faithful to the people who elected you?
So I would say this, and it's a really simple answer. Check my record. It's what I have done for 9 years of my life. I go into court and I fight tough battles. I fight for people. I've done a multitude of different types of law. And sometimes you have to make tough decisions. And that's exactly what I'm going to do when I'm in office. I know how to do it. I know how to stay strong in my convictions. I know how to walk into court and by myself fight a team of lawyers who may be twice my age in many cases. I don't know, probably not now. I'm getting kind of old, but when I first started practicing, when I was a newbie, I would go in with no fear, because I know why I'm doing this. I know firmly within my heart, and I don't get to say this very often, but I think that it's appropriate to talk about it here, because you started this with a prayer. I can tell you this is a calling from God of why I'm doing this. I firmly believe it, and I know that once I made it out of that 5-man race, I'm like, okay, God, you carried me this far, you're going to carry me the rest. I can tell you I'm doing this for no self-motivation. I have no agenda. There's I'm not doing this for a political stepping stone, for a career. Heck, I'd tell you I'm probably going to lose money doing this, but I'm doing it for the right reasons, because I know how to be a strong voice for my clients. and I'm going to be a strong voice for my constituents. And they can rest assured that they're getting LV, lawyer LV, every step of the way as Representative LV. I will never turn my back on them, and I am here to listen. And I never want to be the smartest gal in the room. I want my people to tell me what they need. I want to listen to them. I want to hear their ideas. I want to hear city council. I want to hear Metro Council. I want to hear everybody's ideas, because that's what I'm hired to do, be a representative. And I'm going to love every minute of it.
Amen. Well, that's music to our ears, Lauren, because there are so many representatives, as Chris said, who get to Baton Rouge and take on a totally different persona once they arrive, or seem to have a sudden change of value systems when they get there. So I love the fact that you're talking about getting input from all of the people who have a stake in this, because the truth is you are going to be a representative and people need to be involved. That's one thing that I've been talking about in some of the local races that I've been involved in, is that yes, it's your job to go there and represent us, but you can only do it if people speak up and say, actually, I know a lot about that particular issue, or actually, I disagree with the way you're approaching that. You can only know if people speak up. So the responsibility is still on the people.
Exactly. And it's very similar to practicing law. Look, I know the law and I know the procedure, but I don't know the client's case. So they have to come in and communicate the facts to me and the evidence. It's the same thing with this. I will know the law. I will know the procedure. The district has to help me learn and hear everybody, what they want done, how they feel. And absolutely, it comes down to, it's a combination. It's who I am as a person, who I am morally, what my beliefs are. They elected me in, but I can't know every single nook and cranny and every single opinion. This is what's important for us to work together and me to serve as a representative. That's why I think it's so great to elect a lawyer. Now, not all representatives who are lawyers do a great job, because there's some in Congress that we know, on the staff. I mean, everybody's got their own way of doing things. But I can say for me, I've been a country lawyer for many years. I represent the small town person, and that's what I intend to keep doing up in the legislature.
Well, that's beautiful to us.
It is beautiful to us. And I would really define you, again, based on my own personal knowledge of you, as a constitutional conservative. And it's so important to have lawyers in the legislature who are constitutional conservatives, who understand what the Constitution says about fundamental issue, freedom, and liberty. And there's no doubt that you will get in there and be very vigilant in protecting our freedoms and our rights. Lauren, how can people get in touch with you and reach out to you and donate to your campaign?
So we have a Facebook page. It's Facebook.com/LV for LA. And then also my website is LV. So my initials, Lima Victor or Louis Vuitton, LV for LA.com. There's a link on there. There is an antidote page that they can donate to if they so feel inclined. Hey, that's great, because as you know, campaigns cost a lot of money. And all the donations that I've taken to this point have been people that I know. I've had a few organizations donate, but it has been really a huge blessing. I would have never thought I'd have this outpouring of support from people, but it is very expensive to run a race. So yeah, donations are great and greatly appreciated.
Well, wonderful. Well, we support you, Lauren. We just really appreciate you taking some time off of the trail to talk with us, to introduce yourself to our listeners. And we are really looking forward to seeing you cross this finish line and get the job.
Awesome.
Absolutely, 100%. We're so happy to have you on. We know early voting starts November 3rd, and I believe goes through the 11th, and Election Day, November 18th. I know you're going to be out there working hard, and we're looking forward on the State of Freedom to getting the word out on all of our platforms about you, your candidacy, and helping you get across the finish line here. We know you're going to do a great job. God bless you. And I have to tell you, I'm almost a little disappointed that we didn't get to hear any cooing in the background today on the podcast because I love babies, and I know you're going to take very good care of that new one you have.
Well, I got to give kudos to Daddy for keeping her quiet that long.
Yes, your husband
Great job.
your husband gets major kudos for that, and I know in an hour he'll be out driving signs into the ground for you. God bless you, Lauren. Have a great day, and Godspeed to the finish line.
Thank y'all so much. I truly enjoyed it. And if I can help any of you or anybody listening in any way, please shoot me a message because that's what I'm here to do. So long have we had people that get in there and it's about themselves. This, as I say in my central lingo, this ain't about me. This is about us.
There you go. Love it.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Have a wonderful afternoon. Chris, she's just in this for the right reasons. I don't know. I like her passion. She's such a warm person. You just feel like you've known her forever. And we just got to spend a few minutes with her here today.
Yeah, I think that she is definitely in it for the right reasons. She's not seeking an office to enrich herself or give her some kind of a status or feather in her cap. She's doing it for the right reasons, and having knowing her personally, I know that she is a lover of the Constitution. She's a lover of freedom, and I think will be a great voice in the legislature for the citizens. And hoping and praying that she gets across the finish line. And based on what she said and what we've seen, Danielle, it looks like she's in a very good position.
It does look like she's in a good position. And I just love and am so struck by the number of people that we've talked to this kind of runoff season who know that they're called of the Lord to be in the race, know that they're called of the Lord to do the work that they're doing and they're able to draw strength from that. And they're in it because they want to be a servant to the people. They want to be a representative of the people. They want to partner with the people. And I just think that's such a departure from the kind of culture that we've seen at the legislature. Of course, we've had great people at the legislature, but they have been in the minority for too long.
Yes. And, we don't know Lauren's opponent, Brandon Ivey. I don't believe he's held public office before. And it's not fair to extrapolate anything about him based upon his twin brother, Barry Ivey, who served in the legislature for 12 years. But it is worth mentioning that his brother has not been a conservative in the legislature. His brother has been really part of the good old boy establishment in the legislature and has not really been a fighter for constitutional conservatism. And to the extent that Brandon may have that same governing philosophy, it does give me some concern. I mean, they may be completely opposite, but I know that, I have 6 brothers that I'm very close to, and we tend to look at things the same way. Our worldview tends to be the same because we come from the same background, we have the same parents, and generally the same values. So while the relationship between Barry and Brandon is not dispositive proof that Brandon will be part of the good old boy network in the legislature if he's elected, it's worth mentioning, and it's something to consider and have some concern over. On the other hand, you have Lauren Ventrella, who has also never served office before, but has been a consistent fighter for the Constitution in her law practice. She has always embraced a servant's heart in everything that she's done, and I believe will serve in the legislature very, very faithfully and not forget where she came from.
Yeah, and I love how much she identifies with her home. I think that there are, it's not that candidates generally don't, but you can just sense her love for the people, for the area that she's from, and she really wants to make a difference there. She wants to protect the people and to work alongside them. So I just kudos to her. I'm really grateful that we've seen so many good candidates step up this election season, and I'm really, really hoping that we will see her in the legislature come January.
I believe that we will. Danielle, I never like to end the show without thanking from the heart the State of Freedom listeners and supporters. Because of your support, we are rapidly expanding across the state of Louisiana, elevating our platform for freedom-loving conservative constitutionalists. And as I say at the start of every show, slowly but surely draining the Louisiana swamp. None of this could be possible without the support of our listeners and those who want to see us continue to succeed. So thank you to all of our listeners. We encourage you to continue to subscribe and share our program and to provide your financial support. And Danielle, why don't you tell our listeners how they can continue to do that?
Yes, listeners can go to freedomstate.us if you're interested in supporting the show. If you're interested in, we even have links there if you are interested in supporting LeCag and candidates like Lauren Ventrella, who are planning to fight for the right things and who are doing it for the right reasons. The P.O. Box for State of Freedom is P.O. Box 861, Berg, Louisiana 70343. And Chris, the P.O. Box for LeCag is...
Yes, Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, P.O. Box 64952, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70896. Your donations to LeCag enable us to provide financial and infrastructure support to candidates who are seeking office, candidates who love the Constitution and love freedom and are tired of the way things are done in Louisiana, specifically in the legislature. So we encourage you to continue to donate and support LeCag. You can also donate online at www.lacag.org, or you can become a member for $22 a month, roughly the cost of a large coffee at Starbucks once a week for a month. So for not a big financial sacrifice, you can make a huge difference in helping us return our legislature to the citizens. And so it's just, I'm just so excited about what we're doing, Danielle, and the progress we've made in such a short time.
Indeed. And before we go, I'd also like to mention a new opportunity for any listener who may already be investing in precious metals, may be interested in investing in precious metals, or even starting a home-based business in that industry. Metal Stacks is a precious metals collectors club where you can buy your metals at the absolute best prices on the market, which is actual dealer cost. You can refer Metal Stacks as well for an additional income. If you're just interested in purchasing metals, you can visit metalstacks.com/dwalker. Metal Stacks retail prices are extremely competitive, beating the big sites and having no credit card fees and no minimums. If you're interested in learning more about the business aspect of it, you can email me directly at danielle@freedomstate.us.
Katie is checking into that opportunity, Danielle, and is very, very excited about it. It seems like a tremendous opportunity.
It's a great organization. It's a fantastic company. Yep.
Yep. Well, Danielle, we are making progress every day, moving forward joyfully, and with God's grace, each day we will continue to take steps to preserve the state of freedom in Louisiana.
Indeed. Have a wonderful day, Chris.
God bless you.
God bless you. Thanks for listening to The State of Freedom. To stay on top of all the calls to action we mentioned today, just check out the show notes for the episode. If you'd like to support the show financially, visit our website at freedomstate.us. If you'd prefer to give by mail, you can send a check to the State of Freedom, LLC at P.O. Box 861, Berg, Louisiana 70343. If you own a business in Louisiana and are interested in supporting our show by advertising, please email us at info@freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org, LACAG.org, or email Chris at chris@lacag.org. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and share it. Give us a 5-star rating in the reviews. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.